quick break. I just want to say thank you for all the people around the world, Jamaica, Germany, Asia, Europe, South America. Thank you for listening to Leap of Health. Thank you for the support. And remember, my book is out. You can find it on Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. It's called Parents Are Greatest Teachers. Thank you again for all the support. And now, back to our episode. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Alex Belgood, and this is Leap of Health. And today, I'm so happy to have Dr. Kelli Ritter. She's a nutritionist therapy counselor, podcaster, creator, part of the Quantum Biology Collective. She's just everything. And I love that. Today, we're going to be talking about grounding. Probably all of you have heard of that lately. It gets a little bit, social media everywhere. But we're going to really be talking about what it is, how it helps us, and how can we do it. But before that, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you get to be Dr. Kelli Ritter now.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Alex. I'm so excited to be here. I love talking about all things quantum biology, earthing, grounding, all of that. So, yeah, my background is in clinical mental health counseling. So, yeah, I got all my degrees in psychology and counseling and was a professor. And I loved that. And I started getting interested in the gut brain axis and understanding mental health for nutrition and went back to school to become a nutritional therapist. And I just kept, I'm a super curious person and I've also been on my own healing journey. So I just keep learning and trying things and somehow landed in quantum biology world. And it is amazing and fascinating. And I can't get enough. I absolutely love learning in this quantum space. So,
Yeah, I love that. I feel like everybody that has been touched by the Quantum Biology Collective, we just can't get enough because there's so much information and some of those aha moments that you're like, oh, why didn't I think about that before? This is just like
yeah.
simple, things that we're supposed to be doing, but we just kind of like forget about it. We've been kind of like not trapped, but a little bit in a way with like these life now that we live mostly inside and in social media and all these things. And quantum biology kind of like it's mostly the opposite, right? Tell,
Right.
tell us
Right.
tell us a little bit of the quantum biology and what do they base on for those that have no clue what we're talking about.
Yeah, I have no what is because people think of quantum physics and quantum leap and but really what we're talking about is quantum being the smallest of things. So we're looking at these, in this case, subatomic particles like electrons and protons and photons of light. Um, but in a biology. So what those in the body and that what's going on there. And what's really exciting about it is like so many things that couldn't really be explained by kind of our Newtonian mechanical, chemical. I think in the clinical mental health world, we really think about chemical reactions and people as chemical beings, and we're actually electrical beings. And so we're electrical beings first. It's not like we're not chemically, we don't have chemical reactions going on, but the quantum is so much more. Well, it's just exciting because it's like a new frontier of science. We can understand things that we haven't understood before. We can help people in a much bigger way. And it's also fast. So, quantum communication, chemical reactions take a bit of time, but quantum communication is instantaneous and it's um, small things can actually, little small changes can make big impact. And so that's what's exciting about it. But really, we're looking at these subatomic particles and what's going on inside the body with regard to these subatomic particles.
Yeah, for sure. I think, and it's true. I think we've been just so accustomed and used to all these bigger processes in the body.
Yes, right. The bigger.
And then we forget about, but wait, how those big processes are happening? How do they start? How are those important within us? And
Yes.
that lead us to grounding.
Oh
What's
yeah.
what's grounding?
Grounding. Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, so I use the word earthing probably more than grounding it.
Okay.
Either ways, people have heard grounding, earthing, and the reason is because in grounding in counseling, particularly trauma counseling, grounding means something different. So
Mm,
we talk about
okay.
grounding to bring, and even in like the spiritual
Mhm.
context,
Right.
we talk about grounding people as bringing them back to the present moment, and so bringing you back to your body and this moment. And it can be really the really helpful tool. What we're talking about in terms of earthing, grounding in this electrical body space is literally skin on the earth's surface. So we are electrical beings. We run best on a negative charge, which I know can get kind of confusing for people, but we literally need to have skin on the earth's surface in order to absorb those free electrons, which are the negative charge. And so living our lives indoors and never, so even when people know, I think we instinctively know that, nature is good for us. Why, all our vacations, we want to be outside and near nature and outdoors. And so people will say to me, "Oh, I spend a lot of time in nature." And my question to them is, in what shoes? Like,
That hurts.
yeah, I'm a hiker. Yeah, in hiking boots. So being in nature is amazing. We have tons of really good information. We've had science for a long time about the importance of nature. I think the piece that sometimes we all don't really realize how important that nature has this healing asset, and it's that it's electrical. Like
Mhm.
the electric charge in the earth's surface is what actually helps ground us, literally ground us. Like, when you build a house or a structure and you wire it with electrical wiring, cable, all of that, it needs a grounding rod, right? And
Mhm.
so, and the reason is because if you were to, well, what was probably happening before we grounded, um, is that people static might happen at the least level, like a spectrum. So there
Mhm.
might be static and you wouldn't get clear pictures on your TV and you might have these problems. But on the other end, it creates fires. And so electrical fires were really, and you can think about the body in the same way, is that when we're not grounded, at a minimum, you're probably getting some static. You're getting some health issues that are at least, causing a little bit of problem. And on the extreme end, you're on fire, you're inflamed. So, inflammation, what's super helpful about understanding this is that grounding, earthing, putting skin, any of our skin, it can be our hands or whatever, on any of the earth's surfaces. We'll talk about surfaces too, like what's a good surface, what's not conductive. So when we do that, and it reduces inflammation, so
Mhm.
you're getting negatively charged, you're instantaneously absorbing those electrons, the free electrons. It's too fast to measure. But what happens is that more people ground and spend time in nature. I would argue you're also getting light frequencies, but that's a whole nother topic. But when you're grounded, that you're reducing the inflammation. So you see better sleep, chronic health issues start to go down. People are able to get off of their medications. Most of the research that's been done in the last 20, and it's really only in 20 years, 2020 is when Clint Ober was just curious about this. He was a cable guy. He made his fortune in the cable industry and was retired and just started kind of wondering about this. So he did his own he funded his own studies in the beginning just to see. And you look at what you see is about 21 or so now studies that are actually lots more information in papers and case studies, which is really interesting. But in the peer-reviewed journals, you've got about 21 studies, and it looks at a lot of things like sleep and pain, and reducing pain and increasing people's sleep. So time to fall asleep gets better for people, the quality of their sleep. But I'll tell you, Alex, the most powerful thing is that you wake up rested. You wake up energized and rested. So even those of us who think, oh, no, I'm a good sleeper. I've always been, I can sleep anywhere. I can sleep for a long time. Do you wake up truly like refreshed and ready to start your day energized? And
Mhm.
that's a big difference.
Yes. And I love
Mhm.
the way you explain it, because a lot of people are like, what is this
Mhm.
grounding? What is
I know.
it doing to my life?
Mhm.
And also that you mentioned, the importance of us being outdoors. And when you say like we go to vacation and we always want to be like at the beach or at the forest or at the lake or at the river, really nobody is like, I'm gonna be in my house and it's gonna be amazing. and,
Yeah.
and and there's a big reason why, because as you mentioned, we're electrical beings that we almost crave that. I feel, at least in my person, I feel like if I've been, I work indoors all the time. Most of the time I'm in my computer or my phone, whether it's emailing or whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
And to
Yeah.
me personally, I am like, oh, I can't wait for summer so I can be at the beach. Or like if I can be outside for a second, um, it's really important. And my body craves it now, especially that I've been doing it more often, more conscious, um, since since I found all of you, which has been almost like a year or so.
Yeah.
I am very conscious of like during the middle of the day, at least take a
Mhm.
walk,
Yeah.
go for a walk, you know, see the trees, whatever, get the light
Mhm.
and all these things. So I think
Mhm.
it's almost something that is just in us. It's something that we just want all the time, but we get so busy with work and stress and all these
Mhm.
things that we keep forgetting what we want and what we need, and which is so simple. Just go outside, be
Yeah.
barefoot.
Yeah. And I think, I was just thinking about the more you do it, the more you do crave it. And there may be people listening like, I don't really crave that. I don't like to be outside or what. I find that the people who have lost the craving are the most inflamed. So sometimes you have to kind of make yourself do it whether you want to or not. And what's really great is you're right, it can be very short breaks outside. You can start wherever you can start. And then you start to crave it more and you figure out how to wire things so you can get your computer outside, or you crack a window, or you find ways to take those breaks. I mean, you think about all the people who take cigarette breaks or smoke break. And it's like, this is, you gotta, you, when you crave it, the same way you probably crave a cigarette, right? Like you crave the light, you crave being outside. And if you can just touch a tree, kick your shoes off. And a lot of people, I'm really surprised at how people are so willing to take a supplement. And I'm not anti supplement, by the way. I'm a nutritional therapist. So
Right.
I think they have a place. But we're so used to looking for a pill or something we can buy. And there are things you can buy, actually. There are earthing mats, there are grounding mats, there are sheets, and all kinds of things that you can buy, but they don't want to actually take their shoes off. And
Mm.
I just think that's kind of interesting. People will say, oh, no, no, I never go outside without shoes. Oh, even in the house, I must have my shoes on. And it's like, well, then get earthing shoes, get grounding shoes that are conductive. So at least you're getting the benefit of that when you're outside. And you can touch. The trees are grounded, bushes, anything that's planted is going to have that same free electrons are still going to be flowing and grounded through that. Grass, dirt, sand. So if somebody, even concrete, as long as it's plain concrete, it's not painted or sealed, we can absorb it. So if somebody, is allergic to the grass or, can't stand bugs or doesn't even really, or is allergic to ant bites, I can see how we get more and more afraid of being in nature and outdoors, particularly with our skin on the surface. So you have to figure out a way that you can do it. And for the
Mhm.
people who have a lot of issues, I think finding ways to get grounded inside, like while you're at your computer, you can put a grounding mat under your feet. And so you're getting grounded while you're working.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I guess there is a lot of people that doesn't want to like be barefoot, but it just, I don't know, it's such a huge topic, right? Especially like I know I spoke to pediatrist the other day
Yeah, yeah,
and the importance of not wearing shoes.
right.
So it's like a
Structurally. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's such a big thing, right? And I feel like if you, for everybody that's listening and they're like, I refuse, I'm not doing this barefoot. I feel like just to kind of like maybe just try a couple of times because it's just so important. Not at the, level of even grounding, but just in general, because the structure of your feet, your posture, obviously we get into the negative electrons and all that. I think trying might be our best bet. And you don't have
Yeah.
to spend any more money that maybe
Yeah.
you don't have or whatever.
Yeah, no money. This is free. I mean, it's the best kept secret, truly. That and light, I think, are the best kept health secrets out there. It's just amazing to me that we don't really know this. I mean, there's a great movie called The Earthing Movie. It came out in 2019, and I was like, why weren't we all, when we were all locked in our houses, watching that? We could have absolutely, and a lot of us did. A lot of us went outside and were like, "Ooh, more opportunity to spend time in the outdoors." But a lot of people didn't because
Mhm.
of the fear. And so I just think, try it. It's truly, if you start, looking into it yourself, but just try it. That's the thing. You're a N of one is what we always say. Is like you are your own experiment. And
Yeah.
so if you just try it and see how it does for you. And I do think there's something about the resistance to just look at that because emotions are so important. I mean, emotions end up being kind of one of this key that you're like, oh, because a lot of the resistance that we feel and the inflammation is from these emotions, actually. And it's usually the suppression of those emotions that create these blocks. And so as you start to, get healthier in every way, often emotions and some of this resistance to something that's, good for you, or that you're kind of like, I'm not doing that, or that sounds stupid, or whatever it is, that starts to melt away.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
Yeah, for sure. Just try, and I think it's one of the best things. And especially you talk about people that have like conditions or they're sick and their level of inflammations are like super, super high.
right.
And you're maybe those people are already taking medicine, they're going
Yes.
to the doctor frequently, and all these things, right? And if you're listening and you're one of those
Mhm.
persons, I think it'll be awesome, and I think it's worth it just to give it a try to this free available thing, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of like, I'm not gonna lose anything. There's no side effects. It's free, and you could definitely go out there barefoot, as many times as you can
Mhm.
to collect these negative electrons that are actually helping you with inflammation. I mean, it's kind of like really cool.
It is really cool, and it's just it's impressive the more that we look at the modern day problems that we've created for ourselves, and some of it, it's great that we have this kind of technology. You and I can connect, and we're not in the same state, and I mean, it's so
Yeah.
cool, and
Hmm.
so I love all of that, and I think the solutions when we run into these problems, particularly health problems, the solutions can be found in nature. And so we just always have to work on this balance, right? And um yeah, and be willing to open ourselves to stuff that may seem really simple and like, oh, could that possibly work? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, actually, Earth is actually designed to help us heal. That's really cool. We are designed to heal.
Mhm.
And naturally, if we remove the blocks, the body will heal. And it doesn't mean that people won't die. We will all die. At some point, we'll have to die from something. And but we can live really, really well while we're here. And so that is, I think, the key is that we can get to a place. And I don't know if you have listeners. I was the type of person, I was doing the nutrition. I'm a nutritional therapist. My nutrition was great. I was doing all the juicing and all the things, non-drinker, non-smoker. And I still just had these lingering chronic, like, headaches were really bad. My energy, I didn't know that my energy was low because it was my normal. I think I've been that way for as long as I can remember. I had these little, I just didn't feel great. And I felt like surely I should feel amazing. And I don't feel amazing. And the more I started incorporating these simple practices that, and some of the other quantum techniques, light, and really paying attention and supporting my circadian rhythms, everything shifted. And the energy, I cannot tell you, the biggest difference is in my energy. And so life is still continues to be stressful and have stress, you know, things that are stressful in my life, but my ability to respond to those things and to feel like I'm strong and clear, like just the clear mindedness is huge because I can approach things much differently in a
Mhm.
better way, I think, than when I just felt a little more sluggish. And it's because of low voltage. Ultimately, we're talking about the inflammation, yeah, is kind of what's the fire's been got started somehow. It could have been from emotional, it can be a trauma, it can be chronic infection, like somehow an injury the it got started and then you've got this fire going throughout the body. And so calming that down is really important. Um, but you also, you got to work on your voltage.
Mhm.
So when we're low voltage kind of all the time, we're not going to have the energy. And our body is made to handle a lot of the toxins that we might come in contact with, mold or, Lyme disease, all of these things. We actually, a body that is putting electrons, using efficiently using electrons and protons and getting all of that going where it's supposed to go, can handle those kinds of stresses and toxins that are in our environment much better than someone with low voltage.
Mhm. For sure. And also too, like I like that you talk about the energy. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people have low energy, but have not realized that have low
Yes,
energy.
I agree.
You know, then maybe they're like, I'm just like this. And I'm
Mhm.
like, no, you could be a lot more.
Mhm.
And I think it's just because they haven't really experienced that whole, I could be higher energy. I could be more awake during the day. I could be a
Mhm.
little bit more sharp. I could be more of
Mhm.
a just on the healthy spectrum. But it's just we have normalized this, like, I'm just like this. But yeah, like really think about it. Is
Mhm.
that like the most energy you can have? I'm sure when you're like super excited, or there's like a birthday party, I don't know, something that really excites you, maybe pay attention on how your energy levels go up. And if
Mhm.
that's happening, I'm sure that's where you could be every day. But maybe, as you mentioned, like diet, maybe you need to go a little bit more out and grounding, get a little
Mhm.
bit of light. I know if you haven't yet, there's a whole podcast on circadian rhythm and the importance of it. So looking at the light and going to bed at the time that you need to, it really changes your life in such an amazing way. And
Yes.
all of these therapies for free. And so I am super
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah. The fact that it's all free is pretty impressive. Maybe learning about it, even learning about it, podcasts are free, but you do your time, like you've got to learn. I think, you know, when we know better, we do better. And so once you figure out, oh, I think that the circadian rhythm stuff is my problem, then you can start going about fixing it. And yeah, it's free. So that's
Yeah.
exciting.
I
Yeah.
think,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about, the energizing and how the longer the better. So being outside, people will ask me sometimes, well, how long do I have to be out there? I mean, it's virtually instantaneous, the benefits. So if you can only be out there for a couple of minutes, and I think, we keep referring to light, also the frequencies of light during the day have an effect on our body. And so they're really important for all of our hormones and our neurotransmitters, and our body knows when to make what based on the light environment, whether it's indoors or outdoors. And so the light environment outdoors is the appropriate information. That's the
Mhm,
appropriate code for our body. So when you start to, pay attention to all that stuff, and in terms of earthing, people who in most of the studies, people are grounding or earthing, grounding mats, so they're sleeping on them. So overnight, or they're spending several hours a day grounded, whether that's outdoors or in a on a grounding mat. And
mhm,
that's, but I still think you can have benefits, if you do it shorter periods of time. But
mhm,
I did want to point out that it thins the blood. So earthing those free electrons that are getting absorbed and being on a negative charge actually naturally thins our blood and keeps the circulation going. So it's great for that. But if you're on a blood thinner, so if somebody's on Coumadin or Xarelto or one of these other things, I think it's important that they know that they're monitoring that, and that they realize that yes, this earthing can be super healing to you, and it can help you a lot, but you've got to be paying attention to it if you're on a blood thinner. And
mhm,
that's really the only thing, the only caution that I have seen, because we think of all modern diseases, practically chronic, all the chronic illnesses, they start with inflammation,
mhm,
you know? And so when you by the time you start to see a problem, there's probably already been a smoldering going on for a while in
mhm,
the body. And so, just to the longer you can be out there, the longer you can ground, the longer you can be in the light. And you've had Heather Shepherd on, right?
yes, couple
Yes.
times.
Yes. So talking about the light and how you can progressively, start with early morning light and evening at sunset, and then work your way so that you're
Mhm.
not hurting yourself. But in terms of earthing, I mean, the benefits are great, and the only caution is around people on blood thinners.
Yeah,
So yeah.
to keep that in mind too. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think that's also good too to just
Mhm.
keep in mind, um, just for people that are taking a lot of things, including the blood thinners. And
Mhm.
you talk about different surfaces.
Oh,
Let's talk
yes.
about the surfaces and what, because people may be like, well, I'm
Mhm.
grounding every day. I'm barefoot walking in my house the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great question. Even my 17-year-old son is like, "Am I not grounded walking barefoot in the house? Isn't the house grounded?" It's a good question, but you're not absorbing those free electrons.
Mm-hmm.
And wood is non-conductive. So if you've got wood or carpet, yeah, the plastic that's on the bottom of the carpet Yeah,
Mhm.
plastic, rubber, asphalt, tar, you're not gonna get electrons coming through that kind of surface.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so sometimes people like when I'm walking the dog, I'll sometimes like kick my shoes off. Now I have earthing shoes. So I actually bought shoes that are conductive and have that little thing that helps you absorb. So even when you're walking around in shoes, but I was on the asphalt. And so
Mhm.
I just didn't realize, like I'm thinking, oh, I'm barefoot on the earth. Here I am. And I still think that's, a good thing to do. But on the asphalt, you're not absorbing the electrons.
Mm.
So it's grass, dirt, rocks, any unpainted, non-sealed kind of concrete is fine if it's not if as long as it's plain concrete.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Then you said sand too, right?
yep, sand is
Yeah.
great. Yeah, the beach and even getting
Yeah.
in the water, having your feet in the water, in the sand. Yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of therapeutic benefits there. So, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and that gives us a really good starting point because if you're thinking you're earthing while you're at home barefoot, walking all day long,
Mhm.
sorry to tell you all friends,
Mhm.
it would, it is a good thing because as, from the
Yeah, the
eye of the
structure.
podiatry, that's
Right.
really good. You need
Mhm.
all those little muscles to be activated and you need to move
Mhm.
them. And from a dancer point of view, it's perfect to
Yeah,
walk barefoot all
yeah,
the time. However, for these purposes of grounding, you do need to go outdoors and
outside.
kind of like
Mhm.
just walk around your little maybe backyard or the front yard,
Yeah,
and that way you can absorb some of those negative electrons that are so important. And as Kelly said, you don't have to be there for hours. You can just be there for a few minutes, maybe between
mhm,
breaks. I love that you mentioned the smokers, right? They make time to go for a
mhm,
break.
mhm.
They literally will disappear from the office all the time. They're so quick. They're like ninjas. You turn and they're like gone, and then you turn and they're back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is something that you could definitely. It's almost like you, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, you're right. And once you're committed, once you're like, "All right, this is important, I'm gonna do this," you find a way. Like,
Mm.
you will find a way to work this into your life. It may take, some adjusting and figuring some things out. I remember when I first started really about light breaks, like getting out in the light and working on my vitamin D. And so getting out in the middle of the day, I was like, when am I gonna work if I'm always like having to take these breaks? Like this is and so it definitely I get that. Like I was the same way because I love work. And so when I get in my flow and I'm just like, I don't want to be interrupted. And you do, like you said in the beginning, you do start to crave it and so it becomes easier. I mean, it's just what you do. And I mean, for me, seeing the sunrise or being outdoors, you don't always actually see this, if it's cloudy or rainy or whatever, but being outside for sunrise is non negotiable for me. And it doesn't matter where I am. If I'm traveling, if I'm, wherever you are, the sun is going to come up. Um, I was just thinking, I guess there are some times in certain parts of the world where it's really dark for a long time, right? But most of the places you're gonna travel, there will be a sunrise and there will be a sunset. And so if you can just get yourself outside at those 2 times a day, you're gonna get the benefit of the light. And if you kick your shoes off or you just put your hands down, if people are like, "Oh, I don't have time to, like, take my shoes all the way off," sit down on the curb and put your hands down. Like, it's
Mhm.
any skin. So, rock climbers that are climbing with their hands and their bodies are up against like, put your whole arm down, like, whatever you can do,
Yeah.
to absorb that, you're getting, like, l layers of a benefit,
Mhm.
right? And it just becomes non-negotiable when you're committed.
Yeah, I think once you're like conscious about it, because as
Yeah.
I said, I love being outdoors, um, all the time doing things. Um, you know, every summer I used to put this volleyball tournament, and so I
Yeah.
was like at the beach all the time, all summer.
Mhm.
But then when it was not summer, I was
Yeah.
kind of like working at home and doing all these things. And even though I love to be outside and do outdoor things and hiking and stuff like that, you
Mhm.
just kind of like forget about certain things and you're
Mhm.
inside. And sometimes it will be days that I will not even see the sunrise or the sunset because I was inside. And
Yeah.
by the time I went outside, it was nighttime. And I'm like, oh, when did this happen? I was like busy and all this. But I think it's just when you're like more conscious about it. Obviously, now I'm like, oh, I need to go outside. I need to go outside. I already know like the time I'm going outside, the time I'm going for my little walk, the time
Mhm.
and as you mentioned, sometimes it's cloudy,
Yeah.
sometimes it's rainy or whatever. Just literally
Mhm.
uh get creative and find some sort of ways, because even when it's raining or it's
Yeah.
cloudy, you still have those lights coming through that are beneficial to you. You
Yeah.
also can either be amazing and dance in the rain, don't do
Yeah.
it frequently. Do whatever you want, but there is ways to do it. And as we
Mhm.
said, you don't have to be there a whole hour in the rain or walking
Mhm.
around in
In the snow.
freezing time. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I know some people right now it's snowing and they're
Yes.
like, how am I gonna ground? I was like -3 outside, -15. I think it
Mhm.
was in New Hampshire yesterday because
Yes,
I
I
was
saw
just
my
taking,
husband just told me. Yeah.
yeah, I was taking, I'm like -15. Holy cow,
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
crazy. But, get cover up, go outside really quick,
Mhm.
a minute, breathe, do some breathing. I don't know, whatever you want to do. There's so many things that you could actually do
Yes.
and come back and just be cool. So yeah, I mean, I think the more conscious you are, the more
Mhm.
you're gonna be like, you know what? I've been at work, I've been at home the whole day,
Yeah.
literally breathing the same air, same thing, same
Mhm.
light, same everything, right? Go outside just for a little bit. It's just gonna really make such a big impact in your health, which is being where we need to be, which is outside. We didn't
Yeah.
burn inside the house. We actually were meant to be
We
outside.
evolved, yeah, with nature. And so really, it helps orient too to the time and space that you're in. So we won't get into mitochondria, but the cells, your cells, every cell in your body needs that information except red blood cells. They don't have mitochondria. But that's helping every cell in your body truly needs the information from being outdoors, from
Mhm.
nature, through the light, through earthing, all of that. So, so look, once you're conscious, that's what you're saying. Like when you're conscious of it, then you start making adjustments. And I want to, tell people that you can touch a bush. If it's full of snow, you just for a few minutes and you don't want to, you're not taking your shoes off in the freezing. I totally get that. And that's the people that I would say you might want to invest in a grounding mat inside. But if you crack a window while you're driving or, in your office, that light can come through. There are things that you can do without
Mhm.
actually, having to move your whole body outside.
Mhm.
And you do start to go, well, if when you're on your phone and you're doing something on your phone, can I be doing this outside? Could I be doing this next to an open window? Um, with my 17-year-old, I make him sit next to I open the window and say, "You can either go outside or you have to sit right here next to the window," because he was whatever he was doing on his computer. I
Mhm.
was like, it's even better if you can stick your feet on the ground while you're doing that.
Yeah,
So,
it's just the ways that we could do a lot of things. We said it
yeah.
again. If there's a will, there's a way. You'll find your ways, whether
Yeah.
you're in the snow,
Mhm.
in a building, whatever it is, you could
Mhm.
just go outside and, start hugging trees. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think about all the times in your life, you start to reflect on the times when you felt your best, and you're like, "Oh, it's volleyball. I was on the beach all the time. I was in the sun." Like, it starts to click for people where they're like, "Oh, yeah, that was a really good time in my life, and, oh, yeah, I don't feel like that anymore." And they connect the dots and, just a last little thought here about when you are trying all these new things, kind of like when you're eating, um, you're changing the way that you're eating, you're trying to get healthier in general. The kinder you can be to yourself, I've found to be the better. Because when people are really harsh with themselves and critical with themselves and like, oh, I didn't do it. And today I messed up. And it actually doesn't help them make progress,
Mhm.
how or whatever progress is, but it doesn't help them. And so I understand, I think there's a difference in taking responsibility and being committed and saying, I'm in this. And but you can also do that with a bit of gentleness and kindness and self-compassion because that actually seems to keep people moving. And once
Mhm.
you start to feel better, it's self-motivating, right? It's motivating to be like, oh, I'm this really does matter in my life.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's my
no, yeah, I think for sure just be kind to yourself, and if you forget one
Mhm.
day or whatever, life
Yeah,
happens. We talk about
yeah.
it, things happened, and sometimes life really
Mhm.
happens in crazy ways, people passes away, there's
Yeah,
things at work, there's accidents happen. I mean, and
yeah,
we're just talking about like really crazy things that can happen, but just life in general will happen, and you might be busy, your kids need to go here, you need to take grandpa there, all these things that happen, and that's just life, and it will happen till we're dead. So
yeah, it
just
will.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Like, so just go learn to flow with it and learn to flow with the emotions. And if people are having a hard time, I've noticed this too in my clinical practice is that like they're just not doing it. Like they know what they need to do, but they're not doing it. They're not kicking their shoes off. They're not getting out. I've found that there's often trauma. So there could be some hidden infections and stuff like that. Sometimes we do see that, but really when they're not getting themselves to this place where they can really do all these things, like they can care about circadian rhythm and they can care about sunrise, they just kind of don't care. I found that that is almost always some unprocessed trauma that got locked up in there somewhere. And it doesn't have to be a huge T trauma like you're talking about, the big things in life
Mhm.
like a death and an accident or these sexual trauma. It doesn't have to be a big T clear trauma. It's often something that was smaller, like what we call the small T traumas that they just accepted as part of life and kept moving on the way we do, like pick yourself up and move on. And it gets layered into our nervous system and our immune system isn't, it's inextricably connected, our emotions and our immune system. And so they need to work on that block. And so there are tons of tools that we can use for that movement and body work and trauma specific stuff, but some way to unblock that. And then all these things start to fall in place.
Mhm.
Then the motivation to actually care about light and earthing. And sometimes people can get themselves to just do a minute or two of something. Like I can kick my shoes off for a minute outside every day. That's awesome. But in order to really feel like you're getting momentum there, sometimes there's something that needs to be addressed.
Mhm. And you could also, for that, just it's also meet yourself where you are. If
Yeah,
you
meet
just,
yourself where you are. Mhm,
yeah, if you just don't want to
mhm.
do it, then don't want to do it. But do little things, baby steps to
Yeah.
where one day you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go outside for like a second and come
Mm,
back and
mhm.
do whatever. So I think just do little changes to, baby steps to get you motivated, but do them. That's the only thing. I've said it many times. As much as I will want to, as much as Dr. Kelly will want to, we cannot just be like, I am going to do this work for Philip, you
Yeah,
know,
can't do
like,
it for you.
yeah,
Right,
nobody can do it for you. And that's like,
right.
it's like one of those like good and bad things because we cannot do it for you as much as we wanted to go earth for you. or
Yeah.
go and see the light before you. But that's
Yeah.
also cool because you have your own power within you, and everything will start within you. And you don't have to start big. Maybe you don't want it, and it's fine too. You meet yourself where you are, and you just do little baby steps every day until one day you're gonna be like, oh, I've been doing this. I've been going out for like 3 times this week. And so that's where you start. So just, keep that in mind. And
I love that. I
mhm.
do. Yeah. Yeah. If I could earth for everybody on the planet, I would. Like I'm out there
Maybe.
thinking I do my prayer meditation. Like I'm a multitasker, like
Yeah.
at heart, right? And I'm like praying and grounding and all the things all at the same time. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And then one more thing I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you too.
Yeah.
We talk about these grounding mats and technology that people are using, like the
Yeah.
shoes and all that.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about the things that people can't actually buy because
Mhm.
maybe they are in Iceland and it's gonna be nighttime for a long time, or they're in the North Pole and it's like a hundred
Yeah.
degrees minor. So what are some of those things that people can grab when they really are unable to do other things? And these
Mhm.
things are, we live in a society and new world of so many technologies out there that now we have all these things to also ground. What are some of the cool things that
Yeah.
people can perhaps think about it and maybe like, oh, maybe I can get that because that will be a good thing for me.
Yeah. I'm all for biohacking too. Like if you need to. It's okay. Yeah, so the Earthing Institute.net is a good resource. That's Clint Ober and all those folks, Sinatra and Zucker, the people who are really doing the research. All the research is there and the resources. It's a great website to go to because I'm sure that there are earthing or grounding products out there. And I just, you want to make sure you're getting something quality because
Mm-hmm.
there are sheets I mean you can, and how that works, that it has a grounding cord and you plug it in. You have to test your outlet and make sure your outlet is actually, you have grounded before you stick it in there, because it won't work if it's not grounded. It's not going to be doing anything for you. So and they have yoga mats now that are actually conductive, so if you're outdoors you can bring that. All kinds of nifty things that you can, and there are all kinds of meters and things that you can test your own. But I think if you just start as simple as possible, and I do think that sleeping grounded is really helpful for the people who have a lot of issues, that are already chronically ill, all kinds of, Alzheimer's, everything, ADHD, on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. Like we see so many benefits from people sleeping grounded for sleep and for pain and for all of these other issues. So some kind of grounding mat for your bed or sheets, or if you just want to start with the pillowcase, all
Mm-hmm.
of those things are available to people. Shoes, like there are really good reputable companies now that have, well, you could wear moccasins or some kind of natural. We were all barefoot. I think before like 1959 is when, rubber sole shoes started to become like a big thing in the United States. And
Mm-hmm.
so, really in the 60s, people started they're more, also we got TVs. So now families are inside and they're also in shoes all the time. So thinking about your shoes, there are shoes that you can buy, and you can do a search. Um, I was trying to think of Harmony 768, I think it is a good one. But Rewilding, you can look for these different kinds of Earth Runners is a great brand,
Mm-hmm.
and look for a way to be earthing without having to be barefoot.
That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
But Also, if you don't want to buy any of those, just go outside.
I know, right? It truly is free. The
I was
light is
like,
free,
it
the
was so
earthing is free,
much.
right? But yeah, but it is kind of nice. It's particularly for the more severe. Like, so for people who, and some people listening might be like, oh, my mom needs that. My dad needs that. Like, we have
Mhm,
aging parents, maybe, or we have a kid that's like, my child has ADHD, or my child's on the spectrum, or whatever these things are. And it's, really hard to get the kids in nature. And some of my earliest work, I noticed working with kids on the autism spectrum that the kids that spent the most time in nature, lived at the beach or whatever, had they had less anxiety. They didn't have the rigidity of,
mhm,
and they also, a lot of the kids would have like very violent stories. They were very drawn to these kind of war and blood, and not that that's necessarily bad, but I just noticed that the kids that spent more time in nature had less of that
mhm,
attraction to that kind of blood and gore, and I
mhm.
thought that was curious and interesting. Um, and that's just something that we noticed, I mean, over 10 years ago. I was noticing that years and years ago. So if you could just get your little kids outside barefoot
Mhm.
and realize that you're actually doing something really beneficial for their health.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. I think there's so many things that we could do, whether you're inside, whether you're unable to go
Mhm.
outside, or where you can just, I know nature also happens and it's raining and the snow and all these things, but there's a lot of things that we could do to still grant ourselves. And I know we talk about like, hopefully you can do every day because we live
Yeah.
every day. So you might want to do it every day
Yeah,
as you're
you're right. You're
breathing every
living every
day.
day. That's yeah. Yeah, the consistency really does matter too. And so the more consistent you can be, and it really does shift your whole view of weather and environment. And there is this appreciation for nature that you might have thought you already had an appreciation for nature, but it deepens it in a
Hmm.
way that you can be really grateful for Mother Earth providing this natural way of healing. Like, how cool is that?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So,
Yeah, no, but it's so cool that you mentioned that because now that I've been doing this for a long time now,
mhm,
it's so funny. Like I will, I'm in Houston now. I'm
mhm.
originally from LA, and in LA we just have beautiful dates all the
All the
time,
time. Yeah.
like all the time. So here in Houston now, one day it will be like sunny and humid, and I'm like, what is this? What is this weather? Because you notice now that when you're out of a building with AC all the time or heater, whatever. So now I know I appreciate the my environment and the weather and everything, right? Because sometimes I go out and it's
Mhm.
very nice and it's like sunny and not humid and perfect. And sometimes I go out and it's like super humid and hot. Or sometimes it's like pouring rain and I have to like walk around my building on the corner so I don't get wet. Or sometimes it's like super windy and crazy and freezing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow. But
Yeah.
I appreciate every single moment because I feel
Yeah.
almost um in a weird way, I don't know. I just really feel connected to like what's happening really with the weather and with my environment. Like I'm so aware
Yeah.
of what's happening outside now.
Yeah. And by the way, running in the rain barefoot or dancing in the rain, that's actually super conductive. So it actually helps to be in the rain earthing. And so that's cool. But also, that's what's happening inside of us too with our emotions. Like you just talking about the different weather. And so you have a different relationship with it and you start to weather the weather. Like you're more okay with
Mhm.
riding the waves of the different and feeling more connected to your environment. It's the same with your internal environment. And
Yeah.
so you become, more able to ride the waves of the emotions or the different storms, or is it a sunny day? Is it a stormy inside of you? and it just becomes a more harmonious experience, both internally and externally.
Yeah,
So, mhm, it's cool
that's
that
for
way.
sure.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I think that was just a beautiful way to put it for sure. But yeah, it's just amazing. I hope everybody that is listening gets something out of, everything that we talk about.
Yeah.
It's so many things that we just know. Like we already know to
Mhm,
be outside, get some sun, look at nature, touch the grass, like all these things that we
mhm,
used to do maybe when we're little with our friends. And
mhm.
but now, because of technology and life and work and stress and whatever it is, now we forget to really do all those amazing things that we used to do before. So just take this as a reminder. We're not telling you anything new. Is
Yeah,
this just
so
a little reminder that we've been forgetting to do all those amazing and fun things.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly, for being here. I think this has been such an amazing conversation, and I hope everybody is as excited as both of us with all this information. Take it out there. Tell your friends that you could
Mhm.
do this. Go out and dance on the grass with your friends. That will be fun too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. I really
No,
appreciate it.
thank you, thank you. And for everybody that wants to get in touch with you, maybe have a more question about this,
Yeah.
or they just want to follow you on social media and see what you're doing out there, where can they find you?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm mostly on Instagram and YouTube and my website. So nourish-soul.com is my website, and Dr. underscore Kelly with an I, Kelli, at Instagram. And yeah, on YouTube, I have a Nourished Soul channel too. So putting lots of content up there right now, and that's fun too. It's quick. So, yeah, I'd love to connect, and I love my kids told me I have to get my feet off of TikTok. I was like, "I'm earthing." They're like, "That's weird. No, you can't have your bare feet showing on TikTok." So, I'm not great with TikTok. I'm on there, but I took my feet off of. But I was like, "I'm keeping my feet on Instagram." So, yeah, you can see me out there earthing and walking the talk
Nice,
out there.
nice.
So, yeah.
I will put all your information also in the show notes for everybody
Thanks.
that's listening and want to connect with you and see everything else that you're doing and offering. Also, I will put your link for your podcast too, because I know you get
Oh,
great
yeah.
and amazing conversations there. So that way
Yeah,
they
it's
can
awesome.
keep on learning and keep on connecting with you too. Remember, for everybody that wants to get in contact with me, you can find me at alexbelga.com. You can find me on all social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. Remember also too, if you want to grab a copy of my book, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. It's called Parents Are Greatest Teachers. Thank you everyone for being here today. This has been an immersive conversation. I think we learned some of it and we got to be reminded of a lot of it that we already knew. So thank you
Mhm.
again, Dr. Kelly. Thank you everyone for being here today. And please have an amazing and blessed day today.